Well, I didn't know, so... Oh, well, I didn't know. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I, I didn't know. I'm sorry. 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 Hey, what's up? This is Ray with Get Real Ray, a place and space for life and business tips from this creative soul to hopefully help you on your journey, or at the very least provide you with some laughs. And so, yeah, let's get real. All right. So yesterday, I got an email, and it was a really upsetting email. It was an email that put one of my biggest fears related to my business front and center. So, one of the ways my business generates money is by placing courses on a third-party website. I have long been a proponent of making sure that one has their revenue streams diversified and doesn't rely on any one source. I have been working fervently over a year now trying to reduce my business's dependency on third-party sites. Now, when I say third-party sites, this includes things like social media accounts, things like search engines, if you do paid listings on search engines. And don't worry, if you're like, right, I got a business, it's all good, because today's a lesson from the lady who effed up has a life lesson as well. So anyway, don't depend on one thing. That age-old saying that maybe not your grandmother, but your grandmother's grandmother would have said would be something like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And when I found myself during 2020 having to change my business model, because I had previously been going into places to offer my services into educational into educational institutions to offer my services, I, like so many people, found myself no longer able to go into a physical building and do what I do, because I was also working as a contractor for a lot of companies. Not being able to do what I normally did also meant not getting paid. Now, lucky for me, I was also listed as an employee with some companies, and so therefore I was still able to make money. But my biggest concern was, what do I do with my business? And so I took my business online, like so many people did. And having the ability to get online and within 2 or 3 weeks start generating income was a really wonderful feeling, because I was able to see that regardless of outside forces, having my own business allowed me to feel in control of my financial future. With that being said, so that was early 2020. So we're going to say maybe 5 months, 6 months before lockdowns and quarantines and all those fabulous things, I was in a position where, working as a contractor, I was so excited. I remember being at this aerial class, and I had just signed to extend my contract with the aerial studio so that I would be able to study, unlimited times a week, 5 days a week. I was really feeling good. And I looked at my projected income for the next 5 months, and it looked like I was going to be making, just from this one contract alone, almost $5,000 a month, not including all of my other financial arrangements. And you might be like, right, that ain't a lot of money. But for someone who is working as a contractor, working independently, and living in very expensive New York City, this was a huge deal, because this was me doing this on my own terms, on my own schedule, and something I worked very hard for. I spent years working towards. And all of that was ripped away in a matter of minutes. It took one phone call and one accusation that I am not a good person and that I did something. And it's hard for me to like talk about it, and maybe I'll have a separate video on that. But I just thought, oh my gosh, one, what happened? Two, who are they talking about? Like, who's accusing me of anything? I've always had this glowing reputation of this awesome educator. So why on earth would this be happening? And so there was this accusation, and the educational institution said, until this is resolved, we can't use your services. And I'm so grateful to the employers who said to me, well, this is weird. We don't know what's going on, but we believe in you, and we've always had great success with your work. So when it is sorted out, we're sure it'll be sorted out in like a couple of weeks, right? These things happen. When it's sorted out, we'll put you back to work. The place I was listed as a contractor for, they dropped me pretty much immediately. I was on friendly terms with my manager there, and all of a sudden it was like I had leprosy or something. It was pretty much, don't contact me. This needs to be resolved. And that was hurtful too, because I thought, well, as my friend, am I not allowed to contact you as a friend, or do you not see how this is gotta be some crazy misunderstanding? But yeah, I never heard from that manager again. The company, once it was resolved, the company never apologized to me. I got some really nasty emails. I had to call legal agencies, and I got a lot of information in terms of, well, because you're a contractor, there's not really much we can do for you. Because you're a contractor, you don't really have any rights. And until, XYZ is done, until, legal charges are made, there's nothing you can really do. And that was rough. I found myself instantly without a huge source of money. Pretty much all of my employment and my contracts had to all stop. I found myself, I think I found this job through like Craigslist or something. And by this point in life, Craigslist was really not a thing. Only people just weren't using Craigslist for hiring individuals. But I needed money, and I needed fast. That arrangement that I made with the aerial studio, I was like, how the F am I going to pay this? Because I don't even know how I'm going to eat tomorrow. And, you can say, well, Ray, don't you have savings? Didn't you have savings? Like, aren't you the girl talking about backup plans and all that stuff? Well, I had a small amount of savings, but my priority was paying down a huge amount of bills. My husband at the time, we had moved, and that was a cost that we weren't ready for, really, because we hadn't planned on having to move. Also, we have just been kind of trying to find stability in our finances. Remember I said working as a contractor, you pick your own stuff, and the work that I was doing was also cyclical. So I was coming off a very slow period of work and going into this very lucrative period of work, only to then be told, yeah, no work for you. And I just remember in the temporary job that I picked up, there were a number of like ex-felons, I guess, working in this job. I mean, everyone was really nice. Everyone was really nice. There were like two people who were a little bit too diva-ish. They were not part of the ex-felon crew, but they were just ghetto. They were just ghetto fabulous. You know, what am I gonna say, right? That's the best way I can describe it. But that wasn't the problem. I didn't mind working with people that I normally wouldn't like hang out and have a cup of coffee with. It was a nice opportunity to remind myself that you never know what people's story is or where they come from or anything like that. So while these are people that I felt like, oh, I don't think we normally like go and hang out. When we were working together, we had an opportunity to talk to one another, to learn from one another. And I cherished that. I really enjoyed that. And I guess I should say I don't normally go around having coffee with people anyway. But it was a good reminder. Just don't, looking at somebody and never be like, oh, that person was just in jail a month ago. But with that being said, knowing someone's backstory doesn't mean that they aren't an interesting person. Doesn't mean that they're not willing to work. Some people were just like, hey, get my life back on track, and I want to work. I want to do as good as I can do. And some people are just like, whatever. I don't care if I'm doing this job. I don't care if I'm in jail. It doesn't really matter. Like, just don't really care. I just want to make sure I got some cash to do what I got to do. I'm like, okay, right? So to each their own. But yeah, I'm sure people were kind of like, why is she doing this job exactly? Interesting. I think there was one couple, they were both like gamers or something, maybe like YouTube gamers. And this was some extra money for them while they were building their other livelihood. That was pretty fun. But yeah, I had to quickly make some money. And driving an Uber wasn't an option for me because I didn't have a car. And yeah, this was like a kind of DoorDash equivalent, but it was better than DoorDash. It was like I'd be running through the streets, like holding a bag of food for DoorDash. So anyway, I've done the DoorDash right outside of New York, and it's a thing. So yeah, that was rough. It's rough when you suddenly don't have your money that you were expected to have. So did I have a plan? Yes, I had a plan, and I had a backup plan for the plan, and all of the plans gone, right? Having savings to make sure that I can pay my share of rent. Actually, now that I remember, my spouse and I were living in separate homes at the time. And we were living separately partly because of financial reasons. So yeah, I was really on my own. I was on my own as someone who worked. I was on my own financially, and it was rough. It was a rough few months. Also bearing this weight of these people out there thinking that I did something horrendous that I did not do. And after several months, the investigation was completed. It was determined that I did not do anything. The accusations were fabricated, and guess what? You can go ahead and live your life now. You can go back to work. It was really kind of like, yeah, it was all made up. So yeah, you can go back to work. Meanwhile, The contract provider didn't tell me this. I had to find this out on my own. I've been dropped from them. The institution two of the institutions where I was so happy to be a part of and to really make a difference, and I really put my brand on teaching, right? Like, okay, I will be a friend with these students, I will collaborate with these students, but they will not boss me around. That was my brand of teaching. Me and my brand were both out the door, and I felt like I had broken a commitment to these students. To be able to say to someone young, okay, next week it's going to be your turn, and then to not show up next week and to not give that term. To me, these things felt horrible. And I wanted to call up these institutions and say, see, they made it up. It wasn't true. But the world had moved on, and honestly, no one cared. And I know that one organization definitely would not have wanted to hear from me regardless. They got to run their business the way they got to run their business. With that being said, when I was able to, the people that I was employed with who did believe in me, as soon as some work opportunities came up, they called me right away. And I was so grateful. And I am still eternally grateful for that. I am getting emotional. That's how much it meant to me. And then, of course, you know, maybe a month later, less than a month later, quarantine. And so it's like, whoa, everything stops again. So being able to have control over my financial future was huge. It was huge. And here we are, fast forward to several years later. As business demand kind of changed, I did have to change my business model and make sure that I still have money coming in. There were definitely ups and downs over the past year and a half or so. My backup plan cash, the loans I had that were just in case business drops. We're expecting it to drop maybe by 40 to 50%. But when business dropped by 70%, it was like, whoa, this is insane. I did not expect this. And so using those cash reserves to keep things afloat, we did that for like a year and a half. And I had to do a lot of reshuffling, had to change how we were hiring people and how we were spending money and what risk we were willing to take. Teachers that we believed in, we could no longer risk certain arrangements in order to give them the space to succeed. And that was also really hard. So here I am. Woo! Finally, like yesterday morning, I just paid a huge set of bills. And I had a conversation with a loans expert that morning where she asked questions like, is now the right time for your business to seek a loan? Do you have your financial documents in order? And as I'm answering her, I'm thinking, I have got to do better financially. I have got to make sure that if I'm sitting in a meeting like this again, there's never a little doubt in the back of my mind, even though my mouth is saying all the right things. There is a little doubt in the back of my mind, like, I'm so close. But the fact that I can't just hand someone the documents tomorrow is not good. And I know I've been working on things, but I got to work faster. I got to work harder because I never want to be in a position where I miss an opportunity because I decided to watch Netflix instead of taking that 30 minutes or hour of Netflix and devoting that into organizing spreadsheets or crunching numbers. Or I decided to buy some extra snacks, even though if I really put that money aside, I could have used that to pay someone to go through my books for me for the week or the month. So yeah, decisions, right? And I am a firm believer, I should say, that we shouldn't make our businesses, even if you're working for someone else's business, you shouldn't make work your total life. And I do feel there's a bit of a pendulum swing, at least in the media portrayal right now, which is this whole idea of whatever the young generation is. It's not Gen Alpha, but it's whatever the other thing is. I don't really know. But you see lots of TikToks and YouTube videos of people talking about how they have to work, but be true to themselves, and their own personal time is priority. These videos of people talking about, well, I have to make sure that I have time to hang out with my friends and all this stuff. And so in the media, there's a lot of, there was something the other day, oh my goodness. You guys, I need to find this clip and share it, because I was like, where a news interviewer interviewed two young women who were talking about how they built these online presences, I guess, related to not being a part of the hustle culture and working on your own terms. It was just all kind of like, shut up. I gotta find this, because it was very much just shut up, right? You have to actually do some work in order to get to a place where you can set your terms. You don't just get to come out of the gate, well, I finished school, so I get to call all the shots. If you don't have the skill set to back up these things, then why do you think that you get to call the shots? I'm not understanding. And some people will say, oh, it's because you don't get it, wannabe boomer, whatever, okay? I'm saying, it's real easy to be like, oh, I'm sorry, but it's 5 o'clock and I gotta go because I'm done. I only work 9 to 5. And one should have some boundaries, limitations. But if you chose a career path where you know the work doesn't happen within 9 to 5, then why is it that you all of a sudden thought things were going to change just because you arrived? Like, that don't make any sense to me. I don't understand. If you need a job that ends right at 5, then you pick that career path. Or you find a work culture that supports that, but you don't just get to go take the job, the salary, and then start trying to call the shot. Anyway, so yeah, one of the reasons why I have my own business. And the last couple of years, I did have 2 situations where I had some contractors who violated our company policies. And one woman said to me almost angrily, I thought it was very aggressively, well, I didn't know. And I thought, but it is your job to know. There's no reason why you should not have known. It was written in our communication. You have access to the class information. And you asked me something specifically, can I use, or you said, I will use this. And I said, do not use that, because that is not what we have offered to those parents. It is not okay to use that. She still did it anyway. Told me the class was amazing. I watched the video. The class was not amazing. I got a parent complaint. I had to issue refunds. I had to pull her off that class. It was a real big deal. And when I asked her, why did she use this material, when I told her she could not, her response was, well, I didn't know. And you shouldn't have put me in that position because I don't do that. And I thought, whoa, this is crazy. So there's just no accountability whatsoever. I had another young lady who I loved her work, but she just wasn't, despite all the training, and she had more training than any of our other educators, she wasn't delivering what we needed, and the class was out of control. And when I confronted her on it, her response was, well, I didn't know. It's my first time doing it. And I thought, well, how did you not see any of these problems? Are you paying attention? And it kind of hurt to have to pull her off, but I was very confused how she didn't really see what she was delivering class was not acceptable. If every week your class is behind, you have to ask for help or say, something's not working here. But I still think she's a wonderful person, a wonderful educator. And so when I got that email, you guys, accusing me of doing things to harm my students, I was hurt. And I know that's something I need to figure out in therapy. Don't take it personally. But I thought, what did I do? And I checked my work and I said, I don't know where I got the understanding that this was okay. Did I get it from some YouTube video because I did do lots of research to check out what is okay. And I still don't know. I still don't know if this was something I saw in a YouTube video or something I came up with on my own to resolve an issue. Because the issue was the files were too big to put on this company's server. And so I used a third-party site. It wasn't YouTube. It was a different site. I couldn't use YouTube because I knew it would push people to other videos. And I didn't want that. And I created a password so people wouldn't have to log in. And I did all the things I knew how to do and thought I could do to protect others. But this email said I didn't do anything to protect these students and I was in violation. And if this violation continued, it was so severe, I could have my account closed at any time for any reason. That means no control over my finances. That means no control over my business. It's my business. And mind you, this is a third-party site. And so we just have a contract relationship. So they don't owe me anything other than the opportunity to provide my services. And because I'm so heavily dependent upon this site, if they took away the opportunity for me to provide my services, I would again be back in that situation where I would have to desperately start trying to find money because I just paid a huge amount of bills and I just don't have the savings available to move forward and be 3 months, 6 months broke or low income. And yes, if you're like, well, James Ramsey says, blah, Susie Orman, all the experts. Yeah, there are a lot of experts saying, financial experts. I don't take my financial advice from certain people. But that you should have 3 months saved up emergency fund and 6 months, and then you focus on a year, then and when you are a small business owner and you are working through contracts, it can take a long time to save up that kind of money. And I'm sorry, I am not moving back in with my parents or eating top ramen every single day in order to save up that money. Now, you might be thinking, oh, what, Ray, you too special? Well, I have been broke many times in my life. Hello, background as an actor here, and who formerly lived in one of the most expensive cities in the world. With that being said, I've tried living off ramen. You know what? I get sick. I don't know what's in it, but the 25-cent pack of ramen, I will get physically ill if I try to eat more than one pack. It doesn't even matter if I don't use like the seasoning. I get physically ill. I've tried living off beans. I also get ill. The bloating, the gas, and all that stuff. And they say, well, do you have to eat a small amount to show your build tolerance? Well, guess what, people? If you can't afford anything else, then you're eating lots of beans or you're eating rice and beans. I remember living off of making homemade donuts. It was just flour and some sugar because that was all I had. Oh, I guess some oil to fry it. Sometimes it was bread. Sometimes it was donuts. Sometimes it was little nuggets. I've done it. And I know that I can't do it. I know that I can't perform optimally in my job in order to do that. And I also don't think it's really fair to say to our friends and family, hey, guess what? I want to do my own thing. And by the way, no guarantee that it's actually going to work, but I'm just going to live with you rent free while I save up some money so that I can have extra protection just in case things won't work out, which, by the way, there's no guarantee that any of this is going to work out. Like, when you move back in with your parents or whatever to save money, you should be paying them something, because guess what? You are using utilities there. You may not be necessarily changing the use of space, but you are using utilities. So shouldn't you contribute to utilities? If your parent is renting, shouldn't you contribute something too? So this whole idea of, well, you need to move back in family and just not pay anything, to me, that's just, no, I'm sorry. But you don't have, once you pass 18, you don't have the right to just expect others to keep giving to your survival. I almost said support you, but I'm going to say your survival, right? You can do trade, absolutely. Like, yo, mom, if I stay here, I will clean, I will cook, I will do all these things to help you out because you're helping me out. Maybe that'll save you some time, some stress, some money. But otherwise, no one owes you anything. And that is one life lesson right there. Have a backup plan for the backup plan. No one owes you anything. And yeah, you need to have a backup plan for the backup plan's backup plan. Just saying, have a couple of backup plans. Okay, so my response to this email was, I didn't know, and I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Are you sure? Is this something? I don't understand. I'm sorry. And I knew my being sorry and my stance of I didn't know, it's not an excuse. And though I feel horrible and I felt horrible, doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, if McDonald's served you a burger that had plastic on it, still on cheese or something, and you bit into it, and there was that plastic, and you're like, oh my God, how could they do this? And a worker said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I checked like I always check. It came from the factory like that or something. I just don't know. I don't know how that happened. You would not be okay with this. If there was a peanut accidentally mixed into something that you were eating and you had a peanut allergy and you wound up having to go to the hospital, you wouldn't accept, I didn't know from the manufacturers. We didn't know about this small problem. We are so sorry. You wouldn't accept that. And many people watching this video would sue right away. You should have known. You should have done better. And so I look at myself and I say, though I did not know, I should have done better. Because as a business owner, it's my job to know. It is my job to do better. And so as you go about your day, I want you to look at areas. I say I want you, right? Who am I to want these things so demanding? But I encourage you to look at areas of your life where you've said to yourself, oh, I didn't know, right? And regardless of your emotional connection, whether it's feeling guilt or feeling no accountability or feeling confused, I want for you to just take a minute to think, how can you ensure that it doesn't happen again? What plan do you have in place? How can you make sure you are more in the know so that you never find yourself in a situation where there's that little seed of doubt? What's your plan? What's your process? If you don't have one, maybe it's time to make one. I know I'm definitely going to be thinking through, I've got my financial backup plan and all that stuff. But what's my process before I get into new relationships? What's my process? How do I need to change my process to make sure this never happens again. And what steps do I need to do in order to quickly ease the discomfort related to the uncertainty of what do I do if someone takes it all away? Because at any moment, someone can take it all away. That's a crazy thing. Even if you're working for another company, right? They have cutbacks. They don't want to let you go. They let you go. Maybe it's something the company didn't foresee. You know, companies don't always fire people because they just, it's not like McScrooge, right? Duck McScrooge? You know, the guy from DuckTales who's like, I'm going to hurt the money. It's not always like that. There are times when business owners do everything they can to keep their business afloat and to make sure that everyone is fed and paid and feels value. And sometimes things are out of control. Sometimes the market changes. Sometimes someone that business owner put their trust in, a supplier, changes things. And then now that business is negatively impacted. So many things happen. So yeah, I know it was a little long today, but I hope this helps. I hope it helps, right? I know I got to go do a lot of research. I didn't even really know how to really fix my problem. I've already done the things I need to do for that third-party site, and I'm working with them to remedy things. But in terms of my problem with the plan, I'm not 100% sure how to make it better. But I have to. It's my job. And so with that being said, friends, I hope that you take a moment to reflect on where you are now, embrace what is happening for you right now, and figure out how you can continue forward in a way that you're proud of. Until next time, peace.